Hey guys, it's Marshall Mathers the fourth here, back to you today with another video. And in today's video, I want to talk about the fact that I hate most people. And that shouldn't be that shocking at all when it's pretty obvious and has been for a while. I've hated most of humanity for many years of my life, ever since I was a teenager. And as time goes on and as I get older, I just become more and more bitter, more and more hostile and vengeful towards other people who clearly have a way better life than me, a way more spoiled, privileged life than me, just full of experiences and opportunities and just having a blast while living whatever kind of life they're living. But I want to talk in really deep depth and detail about the people I hate, being most, of course. Starting off with the most obvious is people who, well, guys who have had girlfriends since they were teenagers and able to have just a shit ton of intercourse and also pleasure that they probably got from whatever bitches that they were with in their teenage years. And most guys all over the world get to have the privilege and just amazing experience of being able to have intercourse in their teens and also become pleasured by all the many whores that they get with. And of course they eventually dump them. No teenage guy ever really marries pretty much any of the girls that they screw and also fuck over in their high school days. Even if those guys eventually do get married, it's not until their 20s or 30s or some shit like that. And I don't feel bad and sorry one bit for you stupid fucking skanks, thoughts, hoes, whores, bitches, and sluts that do get fucked over by all those man whores that you do as teenagers and pretty much throughout your teen years, because I feel that you should know better. But of course you don't, and probably never will. And even if you do, it won't be until you're a lot older until you have really got a full, complete understanding of what kind of guys you were going for in both your teens and possibly 20s as well. Only women when they're about in their 30s and have a bunch of kids, only then and only then do they finally stop fucking around and stop going for man whores. They stop going for Chads, Tyrone, Jamal, Chadrigas. And they just entirely give up on those guys when they're finally ready to settle down at the age of 30 or older. But I wouldn't want any of those washed up old whores. No fucking way. I'd rather be a miserable virgin for the rest of my worthless fucking life. And that's most likely going to be the case for me anyways. But, I mean, I definitely hate the fucking shit out of any guys. I don't care what your punk ass race is. Any guys who have had girlfriends and who have just had so much sex in their high school days, their teenage years, and a lot of pleasure as well from those girls that they have been able to have so much intercourse with and also so much pleasure from. And you know what's interesting about it is a lot of these guys, well, being most, of course, who are able to have the privilege and experience of being able to have just lots of intercourse and pleasure starting from when they're teenagers, and even in some rare cases when they're even kids, they'll have like a lot of sex with even just one girl. Like the first girl they get with, they'll have sex with a lot. Like one teenage girl with one teenage guy will have like sex about 100 times with just that guy. Like teenage girls will even admit when they were with like their first boyfriend, they had sex like something like 100 times. And I don't know if that's considered a lot or just average. I don't know, but I really don't care. I mean, of course I do, but I try not to let it get to me that much, because I mean, I've never been involved in that myself, and I've never experienced that, and thank God that I've never actually had to see that. But even just thinking about it is enough to make me become unhinged and piss me the fuck off and make me angry, hateful, jealous, and envious of all you fucking pitiful cocksuckers out there in this goddamn world. You can all go to fucking hell for all I fucking care, as the wretched pieces of filth that you all are. But also I hate people that smoke and do drugs. I think that shit is very annoying and irritating, at least to me personally. Plus, not to mention the obvious fact, even if you don't agree with me, it's definitely a fact that smoking and doing drugs is very overrated. Very overrated. Pretty much anywhere you go in the world. But I would say especially here in America. Just so many people have such an addiction to smoking or doing drugs. And it's a nasty, disgusting addiction. And they call it a habit when really it's an addiction. It's not a habit, it's an addiction. I don't know why people keep calling it a habit when it's not a bullshit ass habit. It's an addiction. And that's the truth. Whether you like it or not. I also hate people like 2000s kids, as I was myself, because I was born in the late 90s, which would make me then a 2000s kid. So I hate really just about anyone who was born in like the mid to late 90s and was a 2000s kid who got to grow up being privileged and spoiled with being able to have and experience their own gaming consoles and video games that they themselves most likely did not buy, but their oh so wonderful precious parents bought for their little just wonderful awesome kids that they love and care about so much. So of course they would want to spoil them rotten and just make them beyond privileged. I never had an experience of something like that growing up as a kid myself. But I also was not even aware of just how much I was missing out on and being just excluded from growing up as a kid. I didn't have these feelings that I've had until I was a teenager. Until these feelings that I have until I was a teenager. Starting from when I was 15, which was the age that my eyes were open, to where I finally understood and realized, holy shit, these are all the things that I've been missing out on and being excluded from and being deprived and underprivileged from for so many years of my stupid fucking bitch ass life. I mean, I don't know, it's just crazy, and it shocks me how much I have missed out on ever since I was even a kid. And you know, in my opinion, the best time in anyone's life to be able to have any great experience is when you're a kid. Because for at least most people, being a kid is usually and normally the happiest times of anyone's life. It certainly was for me. And So people who have had their own gaming consoles and video games since they were kids growing up in the 2000s were able to have just an endless amount of fun and excitement of being able to just enjoy having their own gaming consoles and video games of their own, which is really unfair to me. And not only did they just have like one gaming console and like a couple or few video games, no, they had a shit ton of gaming consoles and video games. They had a lot of gaming consoles and video games. And then that brings me to the next thing that I hate most people for. And if anything, I'm going to mainly be talking about, obviously, people in America, as I was born and raised in this country myself. I hate pretty much and practically anyone, regardless of your race, who was able to be raised in a big city to where you were able to have the privilege of being able to experience and explore just like all the areas or all the locations of whatever big city you were raised in. And also, even better than that, you were able to experience minorities and immigrants. You were able to interact with them physically and socially ever since you're kids, and being able to experience diversity since you're a kid is by far the best possible time in anyone's life to have experienced that. Well, not so much anymore because of all the blacks who are so obsessed with the fact that they're black or they're melanin, or they're just so obsessed with the race and their people and stuff like that, and they're just way too self-centered, self-absorbed, self-righteous, way too fragile and sensitive and delicate. And with all the woke shit and all the critical race theory nonsense going on in our country in modern times, I wouldn't say it's fun anymore for any kids to grow up in a place that's super diverse. But at least in, like, say, the 90s, the 2000s, the 80s, 70s, 60s, stuff like that, those eras and generations, all the way up until the 2000s at least, were the best possible times for anyone starting from when they were kids to experience diversity. Because in the 90s and 2000s even, nobody was really obsessed with race. Race wasn't that much of a talked about topic. It wasn't that much of a talked about discussion in schools or outside of schools or in the news or whatever. And there was no critical race theory. There was no blacks who were really like super insanely obsessed with their race, their skin color, their melanin, whatever, their people, and just really fragile, delicate, and sensitive to like black people being killed by police officers who are supposedly racist, even though they're actually not. I mean, I would say the 2000s was the last, at least, decent, okay era and generation. And it's definitely an era and generation that I really miss and liked a lot myself. Even though I didn't have that many experiences in my life, I still definitely did appreciate and enjoy that era and generation myself. Even though, again, I only had limited experiences growing up, and there was a lot of experiences that I missed out on and was excluded from, deprived and underprivileged of, and just there were a lot of things that I feel like growing up when I was a kid that when I look back on as an adult and even a teenager, that I was just prevented from experiencing or kept from experiencing because of the parents that I had and still have. But yeah, and then another reason why I hate most people is because I hate anyone, men or women, who, starting in the 2010s era and generation, who were teenagers in that decade, as I was myself. I was 13 in 2010 and then 19 in 2016. So for most of the 2010s era generation, I was a teenager. And so any guys or girls who were teenagers starting from that era and generation who had gaming computers, and when I say gaming computers, I mean specifically really crazy expensive gaming computers, like anywhere from, say, $3,000 or $5,000 to about $10,000 gaming computers. Any people who had gaming computers that expensive, from a $3,000 or $5,000 gaming computer to a $10,000 one in the 2010s era generation or decade, who had those gaming computers as teenagers, I fucking hate. I'm angry at, jealous and envious of, and hate the shit out of. Like I said before. And I would never want anything to do with any teenagers who are able to ever have or get an expensive gaming computer. I would not want anything to do with you in real life, in person, in public. And of course, you'll come on my YouTube channel anyways, but I would really appreciate it if you would please leave me the fuck alone, knowing how much I hate your kind, and I'm angry at your kind, jealous and envious of your kind. I also would want nothing to do with really anyone at the end of the day who grew up being able to experience diversity in the, say, 90s or 2000s, and since they were kids, and also who was raised in big cities. I mean, I would not want anything to do with you, because you're my arch enemies. As simple as that. You're my arch enemies. And I would also want nothing to really do with people who were lucky and privileged and blessed and spoiled enough of being able to have their very own gaming consoles and video games growing up as kids in the 2000s. Because I wasn't myself. I also hate people who were able to move out of their parents' home at 18, because I wasn't able to achieve and accomplish something like that. As much as I wish I was and did, I didn't. And I think that is one of the most unfortunate things about my life, that I wasn't able to do that, because years earlier I was stubborn as fuck and just reluctant and refused to get a job, and I chose to instead just waste away years of my life, and just throwing those years away in my life that I'll never get back, and just wasting away like the idiot that I was and pretty much still am. And I didn't get a job, so I wasn't able to have my own income, wasn't able to save up for either stuff that I needed or wanted. And because I didn't get a job when I was 15, 16, 17 years old, I wasn't able to save up to even eventually move the fuck out of my parents' house when I was 18 or 19 years old, which would have been a dream come true and would have definitely been a miracle, especially given the situation and circumstance of my life and just how I am as a person. And I mean, honestly, in a way, to an extent, I definitely would say I'm disabled somewhat. And I fucking hate people who just fit in and who are able to connect with people in society, relate to them, become friends with them, who are really loved, accepted, appreciated, cared about, and just have a really fulfilling life, because I never will myself. I mean, that's an obvious fact there. And neither will really anyone like me who's nothing more than a social reject, a outcast, an outsider, a loner, a doomer, a loser, an incel, a failure. And because I'm all those things and also much more, I just don't see someone like me ever even being able to make something of myself in the society of ours, because the society of ours that we have and that we have come to know and understand and become used to, I don't fit into a society like that. I don't see myself benefiting from the society of ours or benefiting anything to the society of ours, because I'm a failure at life. And I just keep on failing. I don't see anything in my life ever looking up, not in the future. I don't see anything in my life ever turning around, ever becoming better. I also hate people, kind of going along the lines of guys who were able to have girlfriends since their teenage years and be able to have lots of sex and pleasure. I hate guys who were born with confidence, and I really do believe that. I don't believe for a second that a lot of people aren't confident and that they just get confidence later on in life. Bullshit. I really do believe that for many people, they're just naturally born with it. Like, it's just a natural trait of theirs. It's a natural characteristic or personality of theirs. And because they were born with it, they were always able to easily get along with the opposite sex or gender, and just always be in the presence of them, to be comfortable around them, normal around them, social around them, extroverted around them, confident around them, whether for a guy or a girl. But I also believe another thing plays into the whole like confidence, self-esteem, extroverted role, being that if you want to be someone who has those traits, then you really need to have positive affection and positive interaction with someone of the opposite sex and gender. Like, if you're a guy and you grew up as a kid being friends with girls, especially a lot of them, and even being able to go over to their house and spend lots of time with them, that's definitely going to help you grow to become comfortable around them, normal around them, social around them, extroverted around them. It's going to make it easier for you to connect with them, relate to them, have stuff in common with them. It's going to help you as a guy understand them more and better, and so that when you grow up and become in your teens, you'll be able to become more used to them and know how their mind works and how they just are as women. I don't know. And if you get positive affection from them in your high school days when you're a teenager, then that will definitely help you, and it will boost your confidence. It will build up your confidence, your self-esteem. It will make you a more normal, liked, appreciated, accepted, respected, cared about person. And you'll have lots of friends. You'll be popular in school. You'll be good with the ladies. I don't know. And so I definitely hate men who have had those experiences. I hate men who have had positive interaction or positive affection over the years of their life, ever since they were kids, from women, because that's not something I ever had in my life, and I don't think I ever will. I highly doubt I will. And I also hate people. I hate most people who are able to get married really young. Like when a man and a woman get married at about, 17, 18, 19 years old, and are able to have children like when they're in their late teens or even early 20s. And you know what is the thing that pisses me the fuck off about most human beings is the fact that most guys and girls have children even before they're married. They even have sex before they're married, which I think is immoral and wrong given the really religious Christian upbringing that I had growing up. But not just because of that, but because 50% of marriages result in divorce, according to statistics. That's not something I made up or pulled out of my ass. That's according to actual facts and statistics, that 50% of marriages result in divorce. And also, another statistic shows that 50% of men, so that's half of men all over the world, have given up on marriage all around, completely, all the way. And, you know, usually, like, people who have had so much sex in their teens before getting married and before having it for the right original purpose and meaning, which was to reproduce or procreate, to bring new life into the world, but to do it after you get married and the right way in holy matrimony, which is also the traditional way. People who don't do that have a terrible marriage. They have a toxic relationship with each other, and then they just end up damaging their kids emotionally and mentally, because then the kids take on the suffering that their parents went through, and then they also go through the suffering that they're going to go through when they grow up. So I just think parents who have had so much sex in their teens and had children before even getting married are just really evil, really immoral people, and they're just doing it all wrong, and they're not being considerate and thoughtful of the children that they're bringing into the world, knowing very well that they're probably gonna fuck them up and affect them really badly. And most likely, they're gonna get a divorce. And you know what I think is shocking about America when it comes to celebrities who usually, when it comes to at least politics, most of them are stupid as fuck. Most of them are just dumb as a pile of rocks. Just morons when it ever comes to politics. Most of them, not all of them. And the interesting thing is that they live really immoral lives, really secular, worldly, fleshly lives. They're really immoral. They're just really sinful and all that. But you know one interesting thing about them that I honestly have to say I really do respect, at least, just this one thing about them, is the fact that a lot of celebrities will not have children until they get married. Until after they get married. And yet, they're supposedly some of the worst people in America. The most immoral, the most wicked, the most politically corrupt. Yet, when it comes to them having kids, they wait until they get married. And many celebrities will not even get married and start having kids until their 30s or 40s. Sometimes even older than that. And what's even also interesting about it is even at like the very youngest, celebrities will be like in their late 20s before start having kids of their own. But most normal Americans who are not famous and not rich and never will be have kids before they're married, while they're still just boy and girlfriend. And while the girl herself is like 17, 18, 19 years old, that's how young most girls in America start actually having children. And then the guy's like maybe 3 years old, or either 20, 21, 22, or 23. And it just pisses me off. It makes me furious. And every time I fucking go out in public, like even when I get the rare chance and opportunity to do so, which is not that often, like when I go to the store or whatever, I see so many couples, and they're not really attractive. Many of them are just ugly looking or average looking at best, and yet they have kids, and they're a couple, they're together, and I'm just here all alone, wallowing in my own self-pity and my own sorrow, and just a guy who will probably never have a girlfriend, and let alone get married and ever have kids of my own. And even if I did, I would only do it the right way. And most women, especially in America, would definitely make fun of me for that. And, you know, it still definitely does piss me the fuck off and makes me extremely jealous and envious, angry and hateful anytime I see couples, even if they're just average looking or ugly looking, who are with someone. But I get the most hateful, angry, jealous, and envious when I see a really attractive couple. That shit really affects me like a motherfucker emotionally and mentally, and just makes me feel like I'm just dying inside, like just I'm breaking apart and tearing apart emotionally and mentally on the inside, and just falling apart and just becoming shattered. If I were to try to describe the way it feels emotionally and mentally, those are the words I would use. And, you know, nobody knows what it's like to be me, except, of course, guys who are also virgins themselves at 20 years of age or older. And let me just say that the older that a guy gets and is still virgin, the more suffering and the more hell that he will definitely go through and endure emotionally and mentally. You know, another thing is, you know, a lot of like incel YouTubers and blackpillers or whatever will say that, oh, that they give up on women or whatever. And I do believe them, and I think that is true. But the thing is, there is no way in hell, if you're a straight guy, that you will ever stop being attracted to really attractive, stunningly beautiful women of any race, or ever stop lusting after them. Like, I'll just even speak on behalf of myself. I was never going to have any chance and opportunity with any woman, but the truth is, I'm never going to stop being attracted to women or lusting after women. And it will just be so depressing when I'm an old man, if I even live to be that old, who will be attracting on and lusting after like much younger women as a creepy old man who will probably even look much older than his actual age. And one thing too, according to scientists, that people who are lonely or who suffer from loneliness, guys who are virgins at 20 years of age or older, feeling lonely, being lonely, and going through all that emotional and mental suffering does in fact age you. I even saw a video on YouTube, speaking of that, of a guy who was a 59-year-old virgin, so almost a 60-year-old virgin, and he looked like he was in his fucking 70s or even 80s for that matter. And it was just the most depressing, heartbreaking thing ever. It's just crushing knowing that there are so many men out there in the world, all over this world, who will die virgins, who will die alone, who have like no friends, no girlfriend, never had a wife, probably don't even have a family. And I mean whatever their family, like whoever their family was, because obviously their parents will be long gone and dead. And they wouldn't want probably anything to do with their siblings, because who would want to be a sibling to someone who's like who has a better life than you? Like if you're a guy and you're a virgin and you see your other brothers or other sisters and they have had everything you ever wanted but didn't have, would you still want anything to do with your family? Hell to the fucking no. You definitely would not. And you know, I honestly just hate it so much whenever I even go to the store with my mom, because my dad, no offense him, but he's never given my mom enough money, and I already feel guilty as shit constantly because I don't have a job and I want one. I want my own income. I want to be able to provide for myself and buy my own fucking groceries, but I can't. And so it's already painful for me enough to always have to constantly think about that, which I do all the time, 24/7, but also to have to go to the store and see all these happy, peppy, optimistic, positive, outgoing, extroverted, confident, social people who just have such a fulfilling life and are way more successful than me and than I'll ever be in my life. It's just like, it's painful. It's painful. And you know, I'm not even seeing, like, whenever I go out in public, I'm never seeing guys who go to the store who are virgins, or who are incels, who are doomers, blackpillers, who are losers, lowlifes, worthless, pitiful failures at life. I wish I could see more of those people when going out in public. That would be awesome. That would be a dream come true. But I know I never will, because those aren't the people who go out in public and do normal people shit. Those people are basement dwellers. They stay living with their parents, and they stay in their parents' basement, just wasting away their miserable life. I mean, why else shouldn't they waste away when their life is just going nowhere anyway, and they're already pretty much a fuck up? Like, who would want to even keep living this life if you were that kind of a person? So, yeah, I mean, none of you have any idea what it feels like to be me, unless you're someone like me, of course. But I just wanted to make this video about, like, all the people that I hate, and the fact that I hate most people of society, most people of this world. I fucking hate. I'm angry at, jealous, and envious of, and I always will until the day I die. But, you know, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in today's video. Let me know what you all think in the comment section down below. I'm out.